There we go. Okay, sorry, technical difficulties, guys. Can everybody see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. Okay, perfect. You never really know. Anyway, I want to kind of linger here for a few more minutes while people log on. But while that happens, I want to introduce myself. Some of you I don't know personally. And so my name is Kate Randall. And I am the CEO of Leverage Opportunity. That is a transaction management and marketing company exclusively for KW agents. We work directly with the one team and several other offices. And so really what we're doing is we're just pouring in value to the agents at KW, the ones who are looking for a little bit of leverage, looking to find a little bit of time back so that they can invest it back into their business and see some growth and some profitability. And we mainly focus on transaction management and marketing for them. So we're helping our agents that way and adding value, but I'm also an operations coach with I Love Coaching. That's Adam Roach's company, focused in Charleston, but really it's nationwide. And my role with him and in that company is to really mentor and coach and train and hire operations and executive assistant type staff members for real estate agents. And so we work on mindset and training and system building and really creating models and a lifestyle really that benefits both the client that I have, but also the business as a whole. And so it's a really cool and new program. So that's a little bit about me. Today, what we're going to talk about is optimizing client relationships. We have been hearing time and time and time again, especially now during the shift, that what we should be doing financially is investing in our people, right? How do we take what we already have without kind of that turtle mentality when things start to shift in the market and just fear-based emotions in general? What happens is we kind of suck in and we want to hold tight to everything that we have. It's a natural reaction, God-given probably, and it happens. But during a shift, what we really should be focusing on is, okay, instead I'm going to stretch my neck out, but I'm going to be purposeful and strategic about the investments that I'm going to make. I'm not going to hold tight to my money necessarily, but I am going to be very purposeful with where I spend it and who I invested in. And so I firmly believe, and the brokerage as a whole believes, that we need to invest in people. And so this class specifically is not just a fluff class of why that's important. You're here, so clearly you know why it's important, but it's going to give you kind of a how to create a core advocacy or referral program within your database and optimize your opportunity for referral. Now, I want to put kind of a disclaimer out here. I firmly believe it is my sole mission put here on this earth to serve other people. And so while this might seem like we are manipulating relationships to get things, that's not, I want to put it out there that that's not what I'm trying to say. However, when you are good for people and when you are doing good for your community, it is good for business. It's a natural thing that happens. And so I want to put that disclaimer out before you all think that I'm just a terrible person trying to build relationships just to get stuff. That's not the case, but it happens naturally and it's sitting in your databases and in your CRMs right now. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Feel free to write and ask questions in the chat. I'll definitely get to them at the very end if I don't see them pop up. I've got a lot of screens going on. But I do want to make sure we get your ahas and your big takeaways so that this isn't just me talking, but it's you guys sharing your ideas and what's worked for you in the past. I think what I would like to see happen at the end of this is really a brainstorming and mastermind session with some of the best minds that are in real estate. And I see some of you on here. So thank you, by the way, for coming. Okay, so I kind of want to give you a roadmap first and foremost of what we're going to be talking about today, just so that you know how to prepare and take your notes. What is a core advocacy referral program? If you haven't heard of one, we're going to tell you what it is, and then we're going to tell you of the importance of why you should have one and how that brings value to your company. How do you create your list of advocates? We're going to go step by step so that you can, as we're speaking, take notes and go through your database and start segmenting those individuals that you feel would fit in that category. And then we're going to talk about how to actually build because those are built on relationships, how to build and optimize those relationships in a way that is authentic, creates strong relationships, but also organically will come back to you in the referral space. Before I really get into that though, what I'd really like to do is focus on what we know and kind of give a mindset behind what we're talking about today. So in 2021, the National Association of Realtors did a study, and they found that the average agent, this is average agent here, earned 15% of their business from repeat clients. They also did a study that said the average agent earned 19% through referrals from past clients. Now that's a pretty big statistic. That's like what, 34% of the generated business for an average agent is coming from what? Relationships. It's coming from people. It's coming from things that are happening naturally because you are in business, because you are out in the world, and because you're communicating with people. What I see there is opportunity that's likely not maximized. We spend so much of our time, energy, and money on lead generation with things that we really don't have any control over. You're pouring money into Zillow, or you're pouring money into Google Ads. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. There is a time and a place for all of it. However, this is a huge opportunity that I don't think a lot of people are tapping into. And if they are, maybe they're not doing it very purposefully or strategically. And so what I want to make sure is that if we are building relationships with people and we're being for people, that's what's happening. The reason why repeat clients came back is because clearly you did something right for them. And that's a very individual basis. You did something right for them. That's why they came back. The reason why they referred their friends and their family to you is because you did something right for them. And the key word there is for. It wasn't about your internal communication and your systems. It was their reaction to what you have done for them. And so if we start to shift our visions into, okay, well, this is what I want, rather than, okay, well, when I get referrals, it's not because of what I want, it's because of what I did for them. It's the emotional connection that they made with me. And so the importance of customer service and adding value, we see it now. We see actual figures of what that relationship means. And so how do we create a space where what we want to be known for is actually heard and understood by the people who are receiving it? And so when we are thinking and shifting from what we want internally to what people want, then we are thinking about people. We're thinking about relationships, and our business growth is focused on what people want. And I promise you that when we're thinking about our clients and our communities and the people that we serve, we are thinking about the business, but we're doing it in a way that's good for people. There's a saying that I heard probably last year, and it stuck with me, that doing good is good for business. And it's not why we do good, but it's organic, and it happens that way. So I want to ask you a couple questions today to kind of get you started in this mindset of exactly what your brand is, because it doesn't make sense for you to have a core advocacy program and for you to be pouring into people if you don't even know what the message is that you want to get across, right? Why have a core advocacy group if you don't even know what you want them to share? How can you convince somebody to carry your message, to carry your brand to a friend or family member if you don't even know what it is in the first place? So my first question and this is a coaching space. As a coach, my job is to provide space for you to self-discover. And so my very first question, I want you to write it down. It's kind of an exercise. I know that's lame, but I do want you to take some time to write it down. What do you want to be known for? We're talking vision here. We're talking niche. We're talking, what do you want people to know about you and about the business that you're doing? What do you want them to know? And while you're kind of brainstorming that out, let's look at some bigger businesses here. Let's look at L'Oreal. What's L'Oreal's slogan? It's because you're worth it, right? Because you're worth it. What do you think that L'Oreal is trying to get across? What do you think they want to be known for? Based off of that slogan alone, what do you think L'Oreal wants to be known for? I'm going to be awkward until somebody answers.
They want you to think that you're worth it, like you're like buying their products is something you're doing for yourself, not for them. Like,
exactly. They're saying we value you. We value you. and you're worth it. And you don't need our products to be worth it. You already are. And so you deserve to feel worth it. You deserve it because you are. That's a huge message. That's huge. And whether or not it's getting put across is irrelevant, but that's what they want you to know about their company. Other companies, Chick-fil-A does it really, really well. We all know kind of what they stand for, or what they want to be known for. State Farm is another one that I don't think people talk about. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. We've all heard that one. What are they trying to express? That we're not cold. We're not a cold insurance company. We're like a neighbor, and we're going to be there for you, like a good neighbor would be. That's a huge message. And so what do you want to be known for, though? What is it that you are trying to express and you're trying to get your clients to understand about you? Once you have that answer, the next one is, what do your clients say that you're known for? Those might not be the same thing. You know what you want to be known for, but what do your clients know you for? What would they say about you? And push yourself on this one. Here's a free tip. If you don't know and you're struggling, then that should be a red flag that you need to ask. You need to take the time and figure it out, because the best person to go to is your client, and being honest and upfront. And we'll get to that later on how you have those conversations. But if you don't know what your clients would say, then we want that feedback. So what do you want to be known for? What do your clients say that you're known for? And then my last question, do those two answers match 100%? Is it the same thing? Is what you want your vision to be being heard by your clients, by your sphere of influence, by your database? Do they understand it? And is that what they would say? Would they repeat what you just said? So that challenge, now that it's in your mind, when those two things match, when what you want to be known for is actually what you are known for, customers immediately become a sales force for free by telling others about you when they match. When what you want them to know is what they know, they will share it, and they are now lead generation. You've now moved into a whole other ballgame when your branding is exponentially you. I mean, when it is exactly what you want and it's being heard and received. What we're hoping to have happen, though, is for your database and your clientele to hear your vision, to be vision carriers, and then to go and take it off and be vision casters. And so if you look at what I have here, this database, core advocate, and lead generation model, it's taking what's in your database. And when you convince them that you are for them, when you are for them, all right, we heard those statistics earlier that being for people is what's important. Having relationships with them and building them and bringing them value is what they want. When you are authentically being for people, then they will be for your business. And if they are for your business, then they now move into a lead generation category. Does that make sense to everybody? Give me a thumbs up. I just want to make sure that I'm getting that across, because the rest of it won't make sense. So core advocacy referral program, what that is, advocacy itself is the act or process of supporting a cause. In this case, when you're creating, little advocates, they support your cause, your vision, your why, what you're known for. They're in full support of it. They're for your cause because you are for them. And there's a link that happens there, an emotional link, actually. So what we want to have happen is, by creating a core advocacy program, we're taking your database, we're segmenting it down to a few core groups or segmented advocates that you can count on who will refer you business. And so you are systematically and strategically investing in that core group, in building authentic relationships with them. Not this wishy-washy, I'm throwing money at you stuff. It's building authentic relationships with a core group of people strategically and systematically to increase referral leads, but also to do some good in the world, right? Because we're for them. If we're authentically for people, then it will come back through referrals because they will be for us. And finding people who are for you is the key. We got to figure out who in our core group who matches what we are known for and will carry that information. So moving on, here's how we create that list of advocates. The very first thing I would say is take a look at your database. And I scratch it off because it's what it really is a data bank. And I don't know if you've heard that yet, but your database is so important. And what we do with our database is even more important. We invest into it, right? Your data bank health score should be at an all-time high before starting this program, period. And by that, it's a little bit of an audit. go through your database, look at your command, whatever CRM you're using, and go through and kind of do a health check and make sure, do I have their name? Do I have their address? Do I have their email? Do I have their phone number? And don't stop there. What's their pet's name? What's their kids' names? What's their story? What's their hobbies? What kind of cuisine do they like? What's their birthday? When's their home anniversary date? And it seems like a lot of work, but what I'm doing is I'm just investing. Instead of investing dollars here, we're investing into our data bank. And when you combine and create what you already know just by having relationships with your clients and you pour it into your database, that's tools, that's ammo, right? That's ammo to build relationships because you can't possibly remember them all. So once you have your data bank at a high health score, then we move into looking at the core and list of the people that you have. And you're going to segment and label, or in commands version, you're going to tag those individuals that you think would refer you business or that they have referred you business. And you're going to make your way through your contacts, and you're just going to tag them using command. And it's a really simple tool if you don't know how to do it. Honestly, if you Google it, there's enough videos out there, but also Jen Vickers is a really great resource too, and she'll help you with that. So you're going to tag your database that they are an advocate. Keep that number pretty small. Everybody's database looks different in terms of size, but the facts are that you can't have a really, really strong relationship with everybody in there. And there's people in your database that you haven't spoken to for a year plus, and it wouldn't make sense for those individuals to be an advocate, right? Because you haven't, you haven't talked to them since they closed in 2016. And so those might not be your advocates. You're going to keep that number small because what we want to be in a position where what we want to do for everybody, we can do for at least one person, right? What we do for one is what we want to do for everybody. So keep that number small so that you can have a tight and really, really close relationship with these individuals. I would say based off of Dunbar's number, I don't necessarily agree with how they got to that number when I looked into it, but I think 150, 100 is a really good core. 100 people. How can I pour into on a specific basis, very systematic and strategic, 100 people. So then you take that list and you push them out, and you're only looking at your segmented list. And now you're going through with a different lens, not just thinking who would refer me business, but who would be in alignment with my vision, with my, what am I for? Who would be in alignment? Who would understand what I'm talking about? And then far beyond that, who would be able to influence others? Who would understand what I'm saying and what I'm trying to accomplish? And then who would push it out? Who would be my influencers? And I'm not talking about like your social media influencers, although that would be a really great, if you know somebody has an awesome social media, then sure, connect with them. I'm talking about their sphere of influence, targeting those people too. Who has a networking group that seems to be really strong? Who is out and about in their community? This is not an age discrimination thing at all, but my great grandma right now would not necessarily be somebody's best target advocate. She's not out and about. She's not telling people about me. She's not on social media. So you're wanting to look at all of those things. Who will understand the message? Who will agree and be for the message because you're in alignment? And then also who will influence others, and then make the system work for you. We're not forgetting about everybody else in the database. Those people are still touched. You can build an automated system around those individuals and still do really great marketing for them. But this is segmented. This is different. We're going to pour into these people in a different way to optimize that relationship. Okay, let's keep moving here. Okay, so that leads me to my next point. So we have our list. Because of the facts that we've read, the statistics that we've seen in building relationships, it's important. Here's how you're going to build relationships with your core advocates. And there's like 800 things, but I've done my top 5 here. And I know it's kind of a lot of notes. I don't like to write this much on a slide, but I couldn't help myself. We're going to break through probably my big 5 of what you can do right now to build and optimize those relationships. And the very first one is probably the most important. That's just adding value. Making sure that you are auditing every system, every conversation, everything that you're doing from the very beginning of a relationship all the way through, that what you're doing is adding value. Adding value looks different for everybody. It could look different on social media than it does in person. But the key is, are you for people or are you just for your business? And so do an audit. Are my systems for me? Or are they for people? Is it what they want? Is it what is best for them? On social media specifically, we should be talking far more about serving and other people than we should be about selling. Selling is not for anybody except for the person you sold the property to. That's one. But serving and being for other people is. Serving is a far better campaign than selling. And we'll get into that ratio of how to actually communicate and what you should be talking about on social media too. And again, that quote, doing good is good for business. Are we adding value to people? Are we rewarding them? Are we recognizing them? Are we valuing them as people? That's how you build relationships, when you're adding value to somebody else's life. And so start breaking down, create a list. How can I do that as a real estate agent? How can I do that during my showings? How can I do that during negotiations? How can I do that when they're moving? How can I, and break down the real estate transaction piece by piece by piece. What are you doing to add value? Simply in an email language that you can copy and paste every time. What are you doing that's adding value in this stage of the process? And then far beyond the transaction, because we only have these individuals for a short stint. Right now in the market, you're lucky if it's like 30 days in contract. And that's a short time to really make an impact on somebody. I had listened to a Jason Abrams class, and he had done this really great graphic where you have this peak of service time and face-to-face conversation that you have with clients where you can make an impact. And then they drop off. And what's the average time that people are sitting in their houses now? I think it's like 10 years. They're sitting in their houses for 10 years. That's a long time to build a relationship and to have a relationship with people and foster referrals, right? That's a long time. So what are you doing at that stage to continue to be of value to a homeowner? Because that's what they are. They're a homeowner and they're your friend at this point. At least they should be after the transaction is done. The second core piece, I think, is vulnerability. This is one that I think is super, super important, but people misunderstand it. And I actually think it's preached incorrectly. And so I want to give you a mindset shift just to think about it and what I have found has worked. So when it comes to building relationships, being vulnerable is key. We've experienced that in our personal lives, but we haven't translated it to our professional life. When somebody is vulnerable with us, my response to that is, wow, they trust me. I can't believe they trust me with that. And now I feel an emotional connection to that person and to their success naturally, without even them saying anything other than sharing what is important to them. When we are vulnerable about why we are in business, where we have come from, how hard we have worked, and where we plan to go, you build a connection with people. You don't have to share that with every client that you work with, but your core advocates, they should know your why. They should know exactly what you are for, and they should be an advocate of that, right? If you're in alignment. Share your authentic why with people, and don't be afraid of telling them why you're in business. When you refer, gosh, when's the last time you guys referred like a mom and pop shop and you actually use that term? You said mom and pop. It wasn't, and I said this in a brief session that I had a couple months ago. It's not because they're a mom and a pop. That's not why you said mom and pop. You said mom and pop because you knew their story. You knew how far they'd come. You knew where they were going. You thought their story was cool. You thought it was so neat. You wanted to share. You wanted to support them. It wasn't because of what they were. It was because you fell in love with the story and you found out the story. Why? Because they told you, because they marketed it. That's marketing. That's branding. Tell your story of why you're in business and get the buy-in, right? And then also being honest about their support. This is one that I don't hear enough. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than being on a sales pitch kind of call and somebody's trying to get you to buy in without saying, hey, I need your referral. This is what I need, and this is why. It's cringy. It makes me feel gross when I'm listening to them and they're going on, and I'm like, I know you're trying to manipulate me into something. Why don't you just ask? Why don't you ask? There's nothing wrong with being open and honest about their support. In fact, when I do like review requests for the agents that I work with, the subject line tells you exactly what you're about to read in that email in the review request. I'll put 123 Main Street - checking in because it's after closing and review request. I'm not going to hide it. And the reason why I don't hide it is because we've done a killer job up front. We've created a great relationship. We've created great customer service. We have that foundation. So I have no qualms or issues about saying this is what is what it is. And we need your help. In fact, when you get that honesty about the support, literally our verbiage, I can't quote it, but it's off the top of my head. It's talking about checking in, making sure that they're okay. Is there anything that we can do? We're so grateful for the opportunity to work for them. While I have you, I wanted to let you know that so-and-so, Jamie values the significance and, gosh, what is it? I'm trying to remember the exact words. She values online reviews and understands that an online presence is a significant portion of growing this business, and that without having an online presence, we can't grow. And so we understand that. And so I'm asking you, if you don't mind, if you could put that on an online form. Here's my Google link. If you can put what your experience was working with Jamie, we would greatly appreciate it. Online presence is everything these days. That wasn't harsh. It wasn't in your face. I was honest though. And what just happened? They now feel of service, right? And that gets me to my next point, creating ownership. They just helped you out. They helped you out, and it feels good to give. That's what we're talking about and why we're here. It feels good to give, and they want to give, and they're helping you grow, and people love that. But if you come about it from this sly way of like, oh, well, I'm not really going to be upfront about why I'm asking. If you can slide that in there, it just feels dirty. You might as well just ask. If you've created a great client experience thus far, you shouldn't be ashamed of that. So being honest and upfront about their support and why it's so important to you, whether that's review request or a referral, it's okay to ask as long as you bring the value. Feedback and ownership. This is what we just talked about, creating a sense of belonging to something. When you ask someone's opinion, what's your opinion? When somebody closes, if you're not doing a feedback analysis, then I think you're missing out. And you're also missing out on creating ownership within your company. And I'm not talking about like physical buy-in, but I'm talking about emotional buy-in. Let's say my clients have closed and I reach out to them and I say, hey, I really value your opinion. I loved working with you and I want to work with more people like you. So do you mind if I pick your brain? I'm just trying to grow, just trying to grow. What did I do really, really well? Great. Note taken. What could have I done better? I don't want to tell you. I really want to know. I value your opinion and I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to be better as a business owner. I really value your opinion. Wow. You called me and asked me that. I can't, you know what I mean? There's a flattery in that. But then when they finally give you the answer, the key is you say, okay, I hear you loud and clear. Thank you. I'm going to make changes like that in my business. Then you're honest. You're going to do it. You're going to make the changes. You're going to come back and you're going to say, hey, I heard what you said, and this is what I added to my business. Thank you so, so much. You're not asking anything other than that. What have they just done? They bought into your company. They bought in. They are now an investor into what you're doing because they feel like a part of it. They feel like they added to something into your success and they're in. That's a core advocate like that. Creating a sense of belonging into a community. You value your opinion. You ask them, what do you think about that? This is what I'm thinking. What do you think about this? Asking them and creating a buy-in. Big businesses do this all the time. They have boards, right? Panels. It's the same thing with the core advocacy group. The next one is building trust. This is kind of a given, but I heard it again, probably last year, being impeccable to your word. What you say you're going to do, you do it. And there is no if or buts about it. You're going to do it. I am, and I'm going to make a promise to myself that I will be impeccable to my word. If I say I'm going to give a client experience, then I'm going to give a client experience. If I say that this is what my brand is going to be, that's what it's going to be. And if I say I'm going to deliver the standard of service to you, then that's what it will be. I'm going to be impeccable to my own words. And when you are impeccable to your own words, when you are trustworthy, you create credibility. And when you create credibility, that leads to influence. That's when people start to share. There's power in being for your community's needs. When you're for people, it's a whole lot easier to be credible and to create influence. Again, coming back to the very beginning, is what your vision, is it for people or is it for the business? And the last one is kind of a given, communication. We hear touch plans all the time, but all of the agents that I work with and a lot of the operations staff members that I work with every day, they have it in their brains and maybe on a note sheet of the things that they'd like to do that year. That's not a touch plan system. A touch plan system is a combination of everything that you're doing that is marketing your vision out to people. You're casting it out like a fisherman. You're casting out your net. This is what I have to offer. This is what I'm giving you. I'm for you. And are you receiving it? Are you understanding it? And are you in line with what I'm saying? And are you able to pass that off? And we're going to talk about social media and client events and how to automate all of that stuff too. So hang tight there. The last piece of communication is just speaking the client's language. Do you know what they're for? Do you know what they need? Do you know what they want? And are you for those things? Are you for what your target audience is for? Are you for what your friends are for? Are you for what your sphere of influence is for? And are you entertaining and adding value? And we're going to talk about that too. What you're doing and everything you're putting out should fall into those two categories. Is it entertaining somehow? Is it giving them joy, giving them something? Or is it adding value? Whether it's encouraging them, doing something good, giving them gifts, giving them rewards or recognition, or is it giving them information about the market that they need to know because it's what they want to know? So communication is key. So all of that being said, in order to have a space of loyalty with your clients, you have to have these 4 elements. And there are others, but I think these are the main 4. You have to build in authentic, real, meaningful relationships. You have to share a clear purpose with them. They have to know. Otherwise, how are they going to share who you are and what you stand for if they don't even know? You have to be of impact. You have to add value. You have to be big in order to compete in this market anyway. That's what we've learned. But this is authentic. Impacting people, doing good is good for business, but also it's just really good to do. And then giving them a sense of belonging, getting them buy-in. And I don't mean that in a nasty way, like we're trying to get money. What I'm saying is, do they believe in what you're doing? Are they for it? Would they get behind it? Would their words that they cherish, would they spend time talking about you because they are that in belonging to what you're doing? Okay, and so here's my last slide. Here's some easy implementations that you can do right away. The first one, make a plan and stick to it. In business planning clinics, we sit down and we leave and we've got a list of all of these great ideas that we're going to do. I'm going to do pies and I'm going to do birthday cards and I'm going to do, Christmas cards this year. We have a list, but we don't stick to it. The majority of us fall off the wagon by February, statistically speaking, and I've taught a class on this too. When it comes to goals, we're not very good at these long-term goals if we don't implement a system that takes care of them at the beginning. And I'm not just talking about writing everything down on a list and saying, okay, well, Thanksgiving pies, we're going to send those out on November 22nd and pasting that onto your calendar. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about pasting the event on the calendar, the pies. And then I'm talking about going into that same calendar 2 months ahead of November and putting a date on the calendar with a to-do task that says, I need to figure out my budget for the pies. Going into maybe the week after that, and I'm going to call 3 businesses to try to figure out what my best pricing is. And maybe a couple weeks after that, I'm going to send out and start doing calls to my database to tell them about the pies. And you start to build a system. A system is not a list of things you'd like to do someday. That is not a system, and it's not really a touch plan. A touch plan is looking at how am I going to get there and making sure that you're holding yourself accountable. And you can do that with everything. You can do it from social media. You can do it to big client events, little ones, core groups like that. But building out a touch plan calendar for your core advocates. Make a plan and let it stick. And then avoid chasing any shiny objects. And we all have fallen ill to this one, I think, where we have great ideas, and then somebody else comes up with something and it sounds really good and we're thrown by that. We want to add it in and our budget's now out the window. We don't know what we're doing and our handy dandy little list isn't working anymore. Avoid chasing the shiny objects. Note them, put them in a book, and address them when it's time, when you're planning out for the quarter, you're planning out for the year. Recognize that is a thing that high Ds tend to have and visionaries tend to have, that we're looking for the cool things. That goes for systems and anything that you're purchasing for your business, by the way, not just client stuff. Okay, and then customer service. This is something you can implement right away. Asking yourself the question of what your customers, I guarantee, are asking. Does this business care about me? And we've all heard it before. I feel like I'm just another house. We want to avoid that, but that's what they're asking. It's the number one question that in any like producing service, they're asking, clients are asking, does this business care about me? And what are you doing to combat that? It's shifting your mindset to, well, this is what works. This is what I do. This is how I do it. To hold on, Am I for them though? Am I for them, or am I doing what is efficient and convenient for me? It's stretching yourself a little bit further and enhancing that client experience. And I recognize that this feels like a lot. It feels like a lot of touches and a lot of movement and a lot of relationship building. But this can be done through systems. It can also be done by leveraging out some things that you don't need to be doing anymore. Your job as a realtor is to give the big experience, right? It's to be the hand holder. It's to make sure they get to the closing table in one piece. It's to get the job done with flying colors in such a way that you've built a relationship that they understand they want to refer you business to. Transaction management might not be a part of that. You then have the opportunity, when you leverage off pieces of your business, and I'm not just talking about that, it could be anything. When you're leveraging off time so that you can focus on being there with pizza on moving day, that's a big deal. You're investing into your database, you're investing into people, you're doing good for people, and you're creating core advocates and nurturing those people. So look at what you can build systems around, make it easier on you, and then look at what you can leverage so that you can focus the time and energy on things that only you can do, which is build relationships. And the next one, it seems like kind of cliche, but it's just simply client closing gifts. This goes a long way. And I actually have a short story to tell about the impact of this, because I talk to agents all the time and I've heard it time and time again. Well, I think that's stupid. I'm giving great service. I'm giving excellent service. And so giving them a closing gift is stupid. And I've heard it all the time. And at one point I bought into it. I thought, oh, okay, well, if they're good enough, then why do they need to? It's irrelevant if that's what other people are doing, first of all. If other people are giving client events, it doesn't necessarily matter how wonderful you are. If that person or that client is looking at a friend on social media who got a gift, what do you think they're saying to themselves? That agent must have cared about them. They cared about them. That's what you're seeing on social media. They cared about them. That's the number one question, right? Does this business care about me? And if a simple closing gift dictates the idea that my agent really cared about me, then why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you compete with that? Why wouldn't you keep up with it? And I'm going to give you an example why, because I understand it seems very materialistic. Just a little bit of background about me. I came to Ohio, single mom. My daughter was 2 at the time, and I didn't really have any money. I ended up being able to rent an apartment. It was a 3-unit apartment. And I worked really, really hard for the next 2 years, and I prayed really, really hard, and I was blessed really, really great. And I got to a point where I bought that investment property, and I purchased it. And it was a really big deal for me. And my realtor knew that. She was my friend. You know what I mean? Like I worked with her. She was a true friend. And I say that in reference to closing gifts, because on my closing day, she didn't spend a lot of money, but she was thoughtful. And her gift told me that she cared about me. All she got me was a book. It was a Rosie the Riveter book. And it was like home maintenance, and it had Rosie the Riveter on the front. And to me, that was, she recognized where I was at. I had finally gotten to a place where I owned something, where I was owning my life again, and that I was on my own 2 feet, and I was going to crush it. And she was going to help me get there. What an impactful gift. She gave me a drill too, because Lord knows I'm an investor now. Like, this is what I need. That she didn't give me a washer and dryer. She didn't take a bunch of money off of my closing costs. She didn't do anything like that, but it was thoughtful. She thought about me, and she cared about me. She knew what I was for. And so she was for it too. She was for my success. She was for growth for me. She was for seeing me forward. And she's a lifelong agent. Like, she is mine. You know what I mean? She cared for me. And time again, I could give you examples of that agent, how she cared about me. She was for me. It wasn't about the gift. It was about, she was for me. She knew my story. So closing gifts, which lens are you looking through? Are you looking through, well, I don't need that because my service is so good? Or what are my clients for? How can I service them? And we have incredible sources, even here in Columbus. Jamie actually has a business that does client gifts, and you can systematize it, but it's important. Client care is what it is, knowing what they're for and what lens you're looking through. Two more points. Social media, that 80-20 rule, we talked about it. Easy implementation of expressing your branding and your message, being 80-20 about it. Until you are on a real estate show and you're a celebrity, then I think you should stick to the 80-20 rule. It shouldn't be sold, 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 sold. A dentist doesn't post a picture of every time he pulls a tooth. That's his job, right? So I know that's silly, but that's the case. So when you focus on an 80-20 rule, 80% of what you post should be either entertaining or of value to them. Adding value. I am for what you are for. I am for people. I am for what you need. I am for what you want. I am for helping you. That's entertainment. That's value. 20% is in your face. Hey, I'm a realtor and I'm pretty darn good at what I do. That should be your 20%. That's your picture of your house with the sold. You can combine the two though, and that's the key. When you create, hey, I'm a realtor and I'm adding value, that's where the magic happens. When you tell stories about how you're serving and the people that you're serving, that's where that 80% really becomes 100%. That's the sweet spot. And then also with social media, don't forget that it's a two-way street. Sometimes we forget the social aspect of it, and it's very narcissist. It's just a narcissist media is what it becomes, because we're posting about ourselves all the time. When is the last time you time blocked? Twice a week, maybe. And I would highly recommend it. Twice a week for 30 minutes, and you're diving into social media and you're just going to start liking and commenting on things. Because how insulting, kind of, and I don't want to hit anybody because I'm sure we've all done this before, but how insulting is it when the last post that your realtor commented on or liked of yours was your closing photo that they posted? It had you in it. It had you in it. And so you liked it. You know what I mean? So engaging pictures of their dog and pictures of their kids and family trips, liking their comments, messaging on things. I know agents who solely focus on Facebook Messenger, just commenting, and that is their DDD2. That's how their communication works, is strictly through social media. Making sure that it's a two-way street. If somebody comments on your post, you're commenting back at them, but you're also being on the offense too. Like you're also going into their pages and commenting on them. And then finally, this is the big one that most people think they have to have when they're doing a core advocacy program. It's not necessary, but I do think it's a huge part, is the reward and recognition piece. Creating core events for those individuals who you want to thank. The very best event that I ever put on myself with the team I was with was a wine event. And what we did is we took our core clients, we segmented just the women out, and we invited those women to a wine tasting event. Those women were allowed to invite 2 friends. This is lead generation at its finest, right? We're thanking and we're pouring into, literally with wine, but pouring into our core advocates, saying thank you so much. The things that you do for this business, your words that come out, your referrals, your support, bottom line, thank you. When those women sat down and they realized that there was only maybe 25 of them and a bunch of friends, but only 25 of them, how precious was that? Wow, they want me here. I'm here. This isn't a mass event that everybody gets invited to because you happen to be in the database. You haven't talked to me in 3 years, but you're going to invite me to go bowling. Oh, thank you very much. This is very specific to, I appreciate you and I value you and I'm for you and I want to thank you for what you've done. And then we put a twist on it and said, bring your friends. And of course we got their information. So that's the side piece of it. You can combine that into really adding value to your clients and to your core advocates. Referral gifts. I think it would be silly if somebody was to refer you business and you didn't somehow pour back into them. That is massive. And then just authentically creating wow factor friendships. Be the biggest giver in the room every time you walk in. I think we should aspire to it, whether or not we're in business at all. But when you are creating wow factor friendships and being an impactor in somebody's life, there's an emotional connection that happens there. If they are for what you are for because you are for them, then you're going to have not just a client really or vision carrier, you're going to have a vision caster. Okay, so that's really all I had. I wanted to mention before I open it up to you guys, I did a lot of research on this topic and that's where I got a lot of my information. But one of the main sources was this book. It's called Know What You're For. It's by Jeff Henderson. It's really, really good. It's a short read. You could probably finish it in a weekend. He's actually, he was a lead marketer for Chick-fil-A. And so he's got a lot of really great stories in here, but it helps you determine not necessarily the how, like we talked about today, but the why, what do I need to be known for, and share that information. So while I have you, I'd love your feedback. I want to hear you guys say what your big ahas or takeaways were. And then I'm going to open it up so that you guys can share things that have worked for you, because I want to use this as a mastermind if you're willing to. So go ahead and take the floor, questions or ahas. I'll keep looking at you. Somebody's got to have something, even if it's a question or your takeaway for the day. Share some notes.
Well, I guess I'll start. Again, selfless service is definitely what I believe I'm known for, and that is my core value. Whether it's with family, friends, I mean, a lot of people know me as an advocate. I've done it in past work. I think I've done it in my real estate work, obviously. And then as well in providing, what I do love is the touching the client and finding different ways to, like you said, whether it's on move-in day when everything is chaotic and you're delivering a pizza or a charcuterie board or a bottle of wine, just so while they're putting things away, they're like, oh, I'm just going to stop here for a second and remember what the big picture is and how I got here. Mm-hmm. I believe that value that we add far beyond the transaction is everything for our database and our clients and our friends,
Absolutely. They become that by the end of
yes,
it, right?
Exactly. And who couldn't use more friends?
Yeah.
I love that.
I agree.
So I have a little bit of a question and some ahas, but
yeah.
So I've been really working this year, like this is my year of systems. So this, and it's funny because you can hear this stuff 5,000 times, but every time you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, I wanted to do that too. So, systemizing throughout the year, the events and the gifts is something that I'm trying to be more consistent about to make things easier for me as we go. So we're working on that. But one of the things that I struggle with, this sense of loyalty, getting one of the aha for me was I'm really going to give some thought to who are my community influencers, like who of this group that I'm now catering to can be advocates for me. But I find, and this is where the bad mindset comes in, I tend to think that I'm a great advocate for everybody. If somebody told me, hey, I just started my Tupperware business and I'm really trying to take it off and, can you help me? I'm like, sign me up, I'll buy more Tupperware. I do that for other people. I don't feel as though my sphere is at that point with me, right? Like, so I'm, I ask for the reviews for Google. I do lots of other stuff too. I'll tell you one thing here. The fun thing to share with people is I started doing happy hours with zero planning and organization, no Popeyes, like there's no pie at the end of it. I just, hey, you come out, let's do a happy hour. And I'm finding this is my third one that I am building those relationships, right? So we're getting off of social media, which I did a lot of for 2 years, and back out. And so I'm just at the cusp of that. So I think in doing those things, I'm probably going to see maybe who my influencers are and get a better feel for my relationships with my sphere. But I just don't know how to cultivate that loyalty in the same way that I'm loyal. I don't see those people doing that for me. Does that make sense? Like
It does. Are you specifically asking and saying that this is what we do, right? Like I'm for you authentically, but I am asking for something.
Yeah, and I'm probably not doing a great job at the ask, and I think I'm still trying to cultivate the relationship so that I feel worthy of asking. But I did just recently do like a campaign. I'm doing a lot of SEO stuff, throwing a lot of, had, command out there doing some drip campaigns. And one of the things I finally did was I did a contest, another one, to try to get some reviews going out on Google. And I decided to throw out like a $500 gas card. And I'm like, let's just do something big and get some attention. So I've got all this energy behind it. And my sphere is not interested. They are like complaining like crazy on Facebook about gas prices. Nobody is interested in winning a card by doing this little contest thing. So I'm missing the mark on that. I've seen other people do it. It's been successful. It's not working ever. Any of the contests I do not appeal to my people. So I did the ask, like the more direct ask. And I said, hey, listen, I need help. This is what I'm trying to accomplish online. I want to help more people. And in order to do that, the best way for me to, expand my digital footprint is to have these reviews on these different platforms. Can you help me out? And like I had 3 people out of 300 that I was specifically targeting step up. So it feels weird to me. And I think these people know, love, trust, and adore me. I really do believe that. I mean, they'll come all the way out to a happy hour, and that's commitment, but they will not do these little things. They will not enter these contests. And they're not really huge on the, I don't know, the advocacy piece. I don't know.
I hear what you're saying, and that's across the board. So people, unless you have, I think, a consistency of giving away gifts, and that's what you're upkeeping on social media, then I don't think you're probably most people on here have been disappointed with that exact same thing when you're doing a giveaway. I think the difference, though, is when you're trying to reach a core advocate, it is a very individualized reward and recognition. Is very individualized. A big reward for, hey, for all of anybody on my social media, you get $500 gas card. That takes away from the significance and the individuality and, wow, that was for me kind of thing.
Yes.
And so it's like, oh, it's just out there, and we immediately discredit it. How many emails have you gotten where, hey, if you hit this button, you're gonna whatever? It's like, okay, well, that was to everybody, but it wasn't to me. It wasn't for me. What would have made a bigger difference is if you saw somebody on social media who was complaining about gas prices, and you just sent them only one, you sent them a $500 gift card.
Yeah.
That's a core advocate thing. Do you see the difference between the two?
I do.
Yeah.
I am combining both because I'm trying to do my little VIPs, and they're getting, and I saw your number about the AHA for me was to get to 100. So I'm currently, like, I have a very small core group of like 20, 25. They're getting the more expensive gifts in the mail every month. And and the goal with these happy hours is to really evolve into something where I can separate out the 2 groups at some point, where I went from inviting all 300 people to a happy hour to doing something very specific for a smaller group of those. So I guess that's what I'm trying to do, is find the advocates, I guess.
If you have 20 advocates already, imagine being able to pour into those people and have them be the people that are running the race for you. You know what I mean? Who are so bought into what you're doing and love you so much and are on the same page as you. I would rather have 20 really, really, really great core advocates than 100 that I'm not really sure about. So I wouldn't say don't hold on to that number so tightly. 20, nurture them, because I would rather have 20, honestly, than 1,000 people in my database that I talk to maybe once a year that I really don't know anything about. So I wouldn't say don't be too disappointed in that number right now. Keep it growing, but focus on those individuals on a very, very individualistic basis, for sure. And don't stop doing the other things you're doing. I mean, that's a whole other budget where you're reaching and you're trying to get people on your social media, but that's a different purpose. That's about brand awareness that's happening without being real vision carriers. That's just about your name being put in the hat. Core advocacy is, are you bought in because I am for you? That's the difference. That was great, though. I'm glad you shared that, because I think probably a lot of people have had the same exact experience as you, where they feel like, well, gosh, I'm doing good. I'm $500 gift card for anybody who wants it. It's good, but it might not be what they're for on an individual basis. Does anybody have any other takeaways? I'd love to hear them. And you guys mastermind on what you've done to kind of even combat the same thing that Dawn has experienced too. Okay, well then feel free to leave anything in the chat if you want to drop something. I'm sure people are looking at that too. I don't think I had anything. I don't know where my chat went. Hold on. Oh, I do have some things here. Perfect. Okay, thank you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. My stuff, everything you can see is on my slide. You're welcome to reach out, coaching or transaction help, or even if you just want to sit and talk about how to build and maximize your database, reach out. But thank you so much for coming on today. You guys have a good one.
Thank you.
See you guys.